What do you hear? What are you saying? Attitude for gratitude. Craig, how about you
Wow.
define tonight what gratitude is? Because
Sometimes it's easy to define things by looking at what it isn't.
fix your camera. Pull your camera down a little bit for me. No, the
What's
camera.
up, brother?
Yeah. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Sometimes you can understand things better by knowing what it isn't, right? It's pretty easy to understand. It's like the what was it? The Supreme Court justice says, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. And so, an attitude of gratitude is pretty obvious, and you pretty much know when somebody is not thankful for something by their attitude, their facial expression, their things that they say, especially in behaviors that they take. So, it's just one of those things in life where you get back what you put out, right? I'm a believer in that. You don't have to believe it. I would recommend that you read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Highly recommend that. Mind-blowing stuff. You can read this stuff that he wrote over 80 years ago, and it is 100% applicable today because human nature is immutable. It never changes. We were wired hundreds of thousands of years ago to be afraid. You hear that noise? Oh my God, that could be a saber-toothed tiger. So that's why people, don't like change. Human beings don't like change. That's why status quo is so brutal, especially for brokers trying to get people to make a switch. And so you have to know how to approach that. And you have to be, you have to take time out for yourself to celebrate the successes. I know that for a long, long time in my career, I didn't do it. I was a jock. And so it was always about the hunt. It was always about the kill. There was never any celebration because, I expected to win. Come on, and so it was on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. I was, in my mid to late 30s before I learned about what it was like to realize that we're just not that important and everybody's replaceable. And so you need to take time for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones to be present and to have an attitude of gratitude, because when you have gratitude, it's like a natural attractant to good things coming your way. And when you have a bad attitude, it's like a magnet, and crappy things just attract to you. So, you can be mad. I mean, I was talking to a broker yesterday and he was mad because he was losing this case that he had for decades. And, I was like, dude, you cannot take this stuff personally. You had a good run, 25 years. What happens? Well, you got older. The owners got older, and new people came in, and you don't have a 25-year relationship with them. So, these things happen, and you can't sweat it. You can't beat yourself up like somehow you're at fault. It's just the natural progression of things. It'd be nice if you could keep cases forever, but that's not reality. So, it's really challenging. I mean, there's a story. Here's another book that everybody should get. Matter of fact, for those of you guys that we invite to our events next year, you'll be getting the new version of Chet Holmes' book put out by his daughter, The Ultimate Sales Machine. And she has, in the last chapter, a really good section on an attitude of gratitude.
I think she'll be speaking there, right? Probably get her to speak.
Oh, well, hey, I don't want to, spill my popcorn in the lobby, but it's possible. And we might even have her on, our show. So, yeah. And so, you have to go out and you have to find these solutions and this awareness and these thoughts outside of yourself. They're not going to come to you sleeping on your pillow, talking to your spouse. And so that's why John has said many times, look, the best thing you guys can do is invest in yourself, right? Because you're probably, whoever you work for isn't going to do it. And if you're like me, I went out on my own at 24. Not a real good Indian, much better chief. If that's not PC, too bad. So that's the reality out there. This is an industry, especially in our industry, John, God, is there any end to the shiny objects that come out every year? Seriously. And so everybody gets distracted by this silly stuff that doesn't do anything. But mostly I think it's just an ego stroke for people who, they want to sound smart when they're in a meeting. And so they get surrounded with all this stuff, and we can do this and we can do that and we can do this. And, most of it doesn't work. Most of it can't prove a measurable ROI. And so, you end up chasing your tail every year. I mean, for the vast majority of brokers outside of trend increases, John, there's no organic growth in their book of business. Sadly.
Well, they're out there farming. God bless them. Be great. Hey, look,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
be grateful for the book you built. Be grateful for where you're at and what
Absolutely.
life you're able to have, as we're talking about today. Gratitude. Let me turn this off.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting on the balcony yesterday playing poker. I invited a poker game on the top floor of
Ooh.
this, brand new high rise we're in, and I'm sitting around with these guys, all young professionals. And says, "Man, look at this. We're pretty damn spoiled. This is pretty darn good." And everybody laughed. Not one person didn't laugh at it and go, "Man, we got it good."
Yeah.
You're on the top floor, brand new building in Fort Lauderdale. It's 80 something degrees. You're in the shorts playing. You got the view, the water, just beautiful. And it was interesting to see everybody take a step back for a minute and actually appreciate it and agree with it. I wasn't sure how it was going to be taken because some people were new. I didn't know who they were. But
Yeah. That's a great way to size them up. You go, look, God, this is pretty great, right? And if people can take a minute out to go, yeah, you know what? You're right. This is pretty cool.
Poor Jeff from our team. Shout out to Jeff kicking butt in the fourth quarter here with us. He's out in Buffalo where they're supposed to have 6 feet of snow. And
yeah, they moved the football game. It's so bad.
We're sitting in, shorts here in Florida. Yeah. So, I think we did an episode back on was why you should travel the world. And
oh God, yes.
Speaking of which, I was potentially going to Thailand next month. Again, this was when I left Thailand, and I realized, wow, what a rude awakening it is to see how other people live and the privilege that we have as Americans, regardless of what you claim you're unprivileged with or comparing to other people. What the life we have compared to them is unbelievable.
Unless you travel, you have no reference to open your mouth and bitch about how tough you have it. Please.
Yeah, you look at employment laws. The way their employment works is if you take off a day of work, you pay the company to take off. I'm going to repeat that. If you want to take off, you don't get paid time off. You pay the company because you took off and lost revenue for them. I mean, that's just one example of the way things are out there. I'm not going to go into how many hours you got to work or how much you get paid because that would make you throw up too. But, I mean, appreciate where you are. A lot of us in this business, it's pretty good business, pretty lifestyle business. It comes with its bumps in the road and it's ups and downs.
It's not easy.
No.
Right?
Look, if it wasn't easy, if it was easy, it wouldn't pay so well. I get a lot of brokers complain to me about this, that, and the other, and that's the same stuff I used to do to Craig when I was a broker, and I tell him the same thing. It's like, look, if it was easy, it wouldn't pay so well. That's just what it comes down to at the end.
That's a great point. The thing that I learned, John, over my years is that I used to always look. I remember reading a book, and it talked about your priorities in your life. Autonomy was my number one. I didn't do well with people telling me what I could and couldn't do. So autonomy was always number one. And I was young and insecure, so mastery was important. I had to be the smartest guy in the room. That's just youth. And really liked, the control over had in my life because I was a farmer for a lot of years once I got my book to a certain level because I wanted to do cool stuff with my boys and was able to do that. And my wife and I have been to nearly 50 countries and, those experiences I am very grateful for because I created balance in my life. But what I realized later when my sons got to be adults was that, with probably only 15 or 20% more effort, I could have probably made 50 or 100% more money. But I was so focused on, things that weren't as productive, right? God, I can remember having Xywave back in the day when it started, just so I could say I had Xywave, right? It wasn't an offensive weapon, John. It was defense. Like, yeah, we got Xywave too. I mean, this is when they first opened their doors. Nobody even heard of the darn thing. And so, I was always looking for like, well, I need one more service, and I have one more service, and I do this, and it was so so misguided. So when I talk to brokers, I talk from experience. I mean, I was a wandering generality until I became a meaningful specific.
Yeah, be thank. Let's see. Somebody in here says, "Grateful to meet John and Craig, professionals. As professionals, friends. Happy Thanksgiving." Same to you. We can't see who's saying that because it blocks the user for whatever reason.
Facebook,
Now
yeah.
Facebook blocks the user. But we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody that's given us business this fourth quarter, who's continued to do business with us. Those that we've been able to help win some new cases, prospects. Those are always fun, exciting. We like winning together. We're grateful for the listeners, those that are listening live in the podcast. Many years we speak to you on the call for the first time, and they say you've been listening for years, so we appreciate that. We're going to keep cranking out some content for you in the new year. I know a lot of people are probably burnt out. I'm tired as it is. I think we got another week or so here. Maybe a couple cases fall through here.
Maybe a couple more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a couple. We got some today. So, I got an hour and 20 minutes into a pitch today with an employer for one of our advisor partners, and had her, and I pinned her in. We had her. And then she says, well, it's a prospect. Well, I emailed the broker right now as we were talking. And they said, well, we don't need the stop loss anymore because we changed. I'm like, what? Wait, what? They already had changed and signed the documents to go to a fully insured carrier or something like that, which I didn't know,
OMG.
never mentioned during the call. Just kind of hysterical. But, look, late to the game on the group, gotten there late. Lesson to be learned is you better get there earlier, get out in front of your prospects before the changes are made, because that broker pushed the easy button and let it was all steam ahead. Even though our numbers looked good, the story looked good. It was,
Wow.
I was kind of shocked, baffled at the end when it said, and I was like, oh well, that's that. Yeah, you can't do nothing now. See you next year. Anyhow.
Yeah. It's hard to be grateful in the moment to know that, if you just follow up, keep it warm, it'll be a legitimate prospect next year. But most of the time now, we throw it in the trash. And then, maybe it pops its head up on its own next year, and maybe it doesn't. I can tell you that this was the strangest year that I've had in the last 5 years. I had, yeah, I had, a lot of business at the very last minute go, you know what? We're going to wait till next year. I mean, one employer was in an area of the country that got hit by a flood. I mean, a flood. And so, they lost 5-6 weeks of the year, and then it got pushed up, and it was, they're sitting on top of open enrollment. Went, can't do it. And it's in those moments that, you have to remember, it's like, well, I mean, I got millions of dollars in business just sitting there as low hanging fruit next year. And so I just need to nurture it and be patient and, have an attitude that I want to help them. I want to help the broker look good, because that's going to lend itself to persistency, greater compensation for everybody. And that's a win-win. And the client will look good to their employees, and they'll look good to their boss, and they'll be happy, and the broker will be happy, and our company will be happy. And you got to remember to focus on those things, and don't want. Want leads to this thought process of lacking. I know my last name is Lack. Hell, I think it was digitally wired into me. So you have to overcome that stuff. Don't be envious. Don't be wanting. Don't be desperate. Don't have this feeling of lack where it's never enough. It's not fast enough. It's not big enough. That only begets more and more frustration, which leads itself into doing the wrong things, into procrastinating. And then that's just the road to, averageness. Trust me, all of your competitors are very average. So it doesn't take a lot to distinguish yourself from the pack. And so once you can do that effectively, it builds up your confidence, right? You become grateful, you're thankful, and that attracts in your behavior, your attitude, you're smiling, and it lends itself to more business. I can't explain it. It's just the way that human nature works. You're going to get out you're going to get back what you put out. And so put out positive feelings and being grateful and being thankful. Especially, hey, next week's Thanksgiving, so we get the day off, John. Everybody gets the day off, but you know what? Some of these guys are going to be studying. I don't know. They're going to be looking at emails about DPC. I don't whatever. Right? Don't do that. Just try for the heck of it next Thursday on Thanksgiving. Be 100% present for your children, your dogs, your spouses, your significant others, and just be present. Don't do anything related to work. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And see how it feels. You might be surprised.
We'll read some of these notes here. Not a big expert on gratitude. Talks about if you have a lot, when you're at a loss of things to feel grateful for, think small. Look at your life through a microscope and focus on the obvious, ever-present parts that might not even spare a thought to. Basically, think smaller. Don't think bigger. And the things you don't have, think about what you do have, because those things are big to other people. Things I just talked about, sitting back and going, wow, look at the view we have and the weather we have up here. A lot of people ain't sitting this right now. Now, normally, do I think about that? No, because I tell myself a story that I earned being here, and I worked my butt off to be here and made sacrifices to be here, so I deserve being here. But, sometimes you got to sit back and go, oh, I got it pretty good. A friend of mine tends to tell me that you're pretty damn spoiled. You got a spoiled life. Now, she's saying it's not to say you didn't earn it, but you have a pretty darn good life. But you forget it because you get caught up in, like it's a gift and a curse. I say, Craig, is that's the real question is, the gift and the curse is you work hard, you chase it, you're never happy, and you continue to grow and get better. But you keep fighting and keep trying to grow because maybe you don't say you're settled or you reach the top of the mountain. So, it's a give and a take. And what we're saying today is look back and look at what you've accomplished. Look at even if you had a bad year, you're still here. You still made it. I could have quit my first year in the business. It was a horrible year. I was so grateful that I was working for myself and free. Let's talk about the freedom we have, because that's really what all of us does is freedom. Everything comes along with it. I had the freedom. It was a horrible year, but I was just so great. I remember when I quit my job to start my company, I was broke. Stella was 9 weeks old. So you're talking 9 years ago, almost coming up on 9 years ago, almost 9 years. And I remember sitting at my desk in my sweatpants that morning, being so happy, broke, because I was free. I remember the feeling to this day. And, we forget it sometimes because we're spoiled. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, oh, they mandated our whole office staff to come back to the office. And, they're kicking and screaming. And, I say, yeah, that's how it should be. But I also am in the situation to do what I want. I'm not under that being told what to do and where I have to work out of anymore. So many on the call probably working remote, salespeople, owning your own company. We got a lot of freedom. And that's something to sure be grateful for. What do you say, Craig?
Yeah, that's worth a lot. I mean, depending on how you're wired, it's priceless, right? I mean, we're in a world, I'd always describe it to my staff as we're in the results economy. Everybody else is in the time and effort economy. We talk to people who work at insurance companies. They don't have the slightest idea on what goes into the financial aspect of how they get paid. So they typically would have a shitty attitude towards a broker, calling me, wanting stuff, demanding stuff, holding me accountable, giving me deadlines, because they lived in the time and effort economy. Do 40 hours, get a check. Doesn't matter if your outcomes are positive or if you do anything that you say you're going to do. In contrast, we lived in the results economy where we had to promise, overpromise, right? Over deliver. And so I would teach my staff, try to figure out if this is going to take a day, tell the client, you get back to them in a couple of days, and then you get back to them in a lesser time, things like that. And because we used a CRM way back in the 90s, that was really early, we could hold people accountable. Go, Carla was awesome. She'd call people up and go, I called you on the 13th at 10:37 p.m., 10:37 a.m., whatever, and you said this, and it's been a week, and I haven't heard from you. And they were shocked. You're like, somebody actually kept track of it and held me accountable. So that results economy is the coolest thing, right? That's kind of like being in sales. So if it takes you a week to meet your monthly and then you're going to go to the beach, that's your business. But if you figure out, hey, I could work 2 weeks and make even more money, that's entirely up to you. So that's kind of the cool thing about having that freedom, that autonomy, is that you get to determine. You're basically your own corporation. You just happen to have maybe, somebody's big brand national name on your card, but make no bones about it. Most of these organizations can't tell you what to do, don't tell you what to do, don't tell you who to sell, what to sell, how to design your plans. They don't which TPAs to use. Most of them don't do any of that. It's all up to you. So as your own corporation, you have to figure out how to run your corporation. And so hopefully, John and I give you guys insights based on experience on shortcuts to winning the game.
Shortcuts. Speaking of shortcuts, I don't know if I talked about it last week, the Thursday before when I missed a show, got a chance to hang around, $1 billion organization and some people, and definitely learned some shortcuts there. Haven't been able to invest in much of myself with masterminds because of the COVID situations, but I did not hesitate in signing up. I wanted to be the first person to sign up for the mastermind because, wow, yeah, you miss it. You miss it after you haven't been around those in a while, and you get the value that you get. So make sure you're looking at that in the new year.
Hey, here's a great story. Maybe you don't know, John, but I'll tell you. So at your mastermind event, you talked to some woman and you shared a couple of different value propositions that you have. And she went back and talked to her husband. I talked to her husband today and I'm like, how in the heck did we hook up? So he's, well, my wife was at this thing and she met, John Sbrocco, and he told her about this thing. And so I wanted to talk to you. So, you never know how being someplace can network you into new business.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of it as a new business. It was really just growing and scaling the organization and learning from people that are pros at it. I mean, that guy lives next door to the hospital system, has more connections than you can imagine. He helps companies scale, which is why I was talking to him. And so, could be a great opportunity there. But at the same time, he's somebody that could come into the organization, has scaled it, has teams in the Philippines, all over to help with the scaling, and can help us really scale and go a lot faster and take a shortcut, because that's not my forte, right? I know that. And that's okay. So I just paid another tax consultant today. I just paid an email consultant today. And I'm not even pulling the trigger on that stuff until mid-January or February. But I pulled the trigger on a sales consultant to build the process in HubSpot. I mean, all that stuff following that event, pumped, excited. It's going to be big things next year. Anyhow, back to being grateful. One else thing we have here is, remember when you dream the life you have now, studying Belfort stuff, it always says the beauty is in the struggle. The beauty is in the struggle. But remember when you first started and now you are where you are, you got to be a little grateful for it because you're doing pretty good. And we forget that you once lived and dreamed about the life you have today. Now, you may have grown along and kept wanting more and more, but at some point you thought of it, I want to live there. I want to have that car. I want to have this life. I want to have this control. And now you have it. I know the goals and the dreams are bigger now, but you got to sit back and go, shit, I'm doing pretty good. It's not that bad, right? Because I can get that in my head all the time. That song plays in my head often.
Yeah, I try to tell John, brother, you got to break the rearview mirror in your life. There is no such thing. You just look forward, baby.
Yeah, that was today's conversation. Craig, the consultant / therapist.
Look forward, man. That's all you can do is control today and tomorrow. Yesterday is history. Quit reliving it. Don't carry it around with you. It's just an anchor. Imagine carrying around this ball and chain, giant freaking anchor attached to a giant chain hooked to your legs, and you're dragging that thing around. That's what reliving the past and bitching about what happened does to you, right? It doesn't attract new opportunities. But when you have an attitude of gratitude, all it does is attract new opportunities, because you know what? Stuff happens, life happens. And if you focus on it as an opportunity to learn from it so that maybe you won't make the same mistake again, How easy is that? Don't keep going. Why did I do this? And how come I didn't think of this? And why? No, stop it. Go, you know what? Now that I've had that experience, I will never do that again. Let's go forward. And
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm excited for the future now. It's like, we talk about it, Craig, I mean, I'll tell you something. I'm telling you things that we're investing in. I mean, we just picked up a database for emails, phone numbers, 25 grand, sales consultant, $20,000, email, 10,000. I'm telling you these numbers because we're spending the money to grow the company and scale the company. And you can do the same thing. You just got to pull the trigger and doing it. The more you do it, the more results you get, the easier it is to write the check. Before, I would have to think about, I just paid another tax consultant $7,500 today. And he basically said, look, he's same play. I love it because they're just like us. He's like, look, it's $7,500. If I don't find you $15,000, like I don't double in the findings in the past, I'll just give you the money back. What do I have to lose? I have nothing to lose here. I can only gain, right? So it's a lot easier to pull the trigger. And that's, consulting agreements, things like that. We'll talk more about in the near future, but I think that's about it. I don't want to hold everybody too long tonight. It is fourth quarter. We'll try to keep these episodes shorter.
Yeah.
And come out with some new guests and episodes in the new year to come. And I think we're going to have a self-funding mastery 2.0 probably in next March. Is what we're looking at.
We
Probably
should, yeah. We got killed by COVID, and the last one we had was freaking awesome.
Standing room only. I was gonna say have it in Fort Lauderdale. Maybe we'll have it down here. It will be.
It's not bad.
End of February, early March. The weather won't be so bad down here. So down here, down in Miami.
I'm getting low on my Tito's and Red Bull, so we should call it.
We'll wrap it there. Hey. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. We'll be off next week, and we'll see you, of course, the following week after. Good luck on the last cases you got. Put in a couple extra emails. One more call, one more email. See if you can get another case there. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next in 2 weeks. Same place, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Heads Up Advisor. Be good. Thanks for listening.
See you.